Everyone, it's Jen, and this video is about making tables in Google Docs. First and foremost, the procedure is to start with your blank structure and insert it. And then you're going to enter your information, and then you're going to format your table. This is very important to do this in order, otherwise you end up spending a lot of time going back and fixing things. So uh, what we're going to do is we're going to get started here, and we want to get our insertion point, so that our flashing blinking line there, that's our insertion point. We want to get it where we want our table to appear. So if we started inserting it now, it'd pop up next to executive director. We don't want that. So we're going to go down to the end of our document. And in order to do that, we are going to hold down our control key and press the end button, and END, not the letter N. Otherwise, you'll have another thing happen. Your end button may be below your number keypad, or it might be above your backspace. And depending on whether you have function keys, you may also have to hold down the function key. I do. And then I pop to the very end of my document where there's no more material written. And now I'm going to insert a, um, a new page, and I'm going to insert a page break. Now, to make this really clear, I'm going to go up and turn on the Google Docs version of non-printing characters. I'm going to head up to the View menu and turn on non-printing characters. And here I'm going to see all those paragraph marks. And I can see here that I'm at the end of the document, and I'm going to insert my page break now. I'm going to hold down the control key and press enter. Now I also see the non-printing character for page break, and I see that I'm on the second page here. Next, I'm going to enter in some text to let the reader know what the table is below. I've typed in book prices, and now I'm going to press enter so that my um, table will appear right below there. Uh, Now I'm going to head up to my insert menu, and I'll go down 2 ticks here to table. And you'll see underneath here that the table menu allows me to hover over this grid, and it has this convenient little counter at the bottom that tells me how many rows and how many columns I have. Now, reminder, columns go up and down, rows go across. So what I need to insert is 5 columns, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 3 rows. And I can see that right at the bottom. And when I'm done, I can go ahead and click on it, and it will insert my table. And now you'll see that I have uh, my cells, which are where the columns and rows interact with each other. They cross over each other. A cell is like these little square rectangles. And in each cell is a paragraph mark because I have a new place to enter text in there. My insertion point now is in the very first cell at the top left, and there are lots of different ways that I can move around the table. I can use my arrow keys that are found usually in the bottom right corner of your keyboard, so I can use the up and the down. You can see my insertion point moving left and right. I can use my tab key, so my tab key will take me to the right. And then when I get to the end of a row, it will pop me down to the first cell on the left. So I can keep hitting tab. And I'm going through the whole table. And then if I hit tab again, it will actually insert an extra row, which I don't need right now. I'm going to undo that, Control Z. You can also use Shift Tab. Shift Tab takes you backwards. So I'm using Shift Tab right now. So Tab, Shift Tab. So it's always the reverse. You can also, of course, click with your mouse to move around in the table. It's important to know all these different ways because sometimes it's much more efficient to enter data and leave your fingers on the keyboard and press tab rather than moving your hand on and off of the mouse each time. That takes a lot of extra time when you're entering data. I'm going to start entering items in the header row. In my very first cell, I've typed book name, and then I'm going to go ahead and press tab and type in 1, 2, 5 books and enter all the data that is listed here for me uh, until I have filled it in. Try using efficiency methods, using your arrows, using your tabs, copying and pasting if that helps to speed up your data entry. You can see here that some of our text has wrapped down to the next line to fit inside the columns. And we want to distribute the space among our columns so that the table looks even and that everything is clearly easy to read. When you are looking at sizing, for example, having each header stacked on top of each other would look fine or on one line. But if you have different ones looking in different ways, or if your letters scroll down, it makes it very hard to read and not clear. Also, in a moment, we will set up the format of our headings and our rows, and we want to be sure that we're paying attention to contrast so that that all the text is easy to read. So dark on light or light on dark, but not vice versa, just to be sure that everything is easy to read. So first we'll start with distributing. With my insertion point in the table somewhere, I'm going to go ahead and right click and I'm going to select distribute rows. And that's going to go ahead and spread these apart. Uh, uh, the rows themselves. Now I'm going to go ahead and distribute columns, right click, distribute columns. And you can see it's still sized a little awkwardly. I can go ahead and click and drag these actually manually because even with things distributed, maybe it doesn't look exactly how we want it to. And we might want advanced Spanish to fit on one line. Maybe we'd rather have that. Um, I'm going to leave these spread out, and I'd like these all to be aligned in the same way. And here's another note. If your ribbon is condensed because your window is smaller, you can always click on these three dots and find the rest of your tools. I'm going to make sure that these are aligned that way. And I'll go ahead and try distributing the rows. Oop, I clicked to delete it on accident. So if you do that, you can always do undo. I'm going to distribute the rows, distribute the columns. There we go. That looks a little better. I may even want to adjust my spacing so that each of these looks the same. So for example, remove spaces to make it look more professional, put in a line break. I could go ahead and do Shift Enter like that, 26 or more. Now it looks more standardized. So you can play around with it as long as it looks clear and uniform, meaning it has the same look, you're doing great. The next thing that we want to do is we want to make sure that we identify what's called our header row. So I'm going to go ahead and select this row here. And with it selected, this cute little pin icon comes up. If I click on it, it's going to pin the header row. So that identifies that this piece of information up here is identifying the rest of the pieces of information below. Also, you'll notice when I have my insertion point inside the table, I get these table options that come up. If I close that, see how they disappear. It's a contextual set of tools or a contextual tab. So as soon as I put my insertion point in there, I get these table tools available. Next, I'd like to go ahead and do some shading. I'm going to select my header row and I'm going to make the text bold so it stands out. And then I'm going to add some shading with this paint bucket right here. I'll go ahead and pick a nice light color um, so that my dark text can be easily seen. You can, oh, looks like I've got white shading on there, so I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that as well. No shading on there. There we go. And let's just make sure I don't have any on the rest of the table. There we go. And then I'm going to add shading to the second row so that it's easy to follow my eye across there. I'll go ahead and open up these more table tools again. And this time, let's see, maybe I'll pick a light gray or something like that. There we go. And that way the eye can easily follow across when you have these different colored and shaded rows. That helps visually track the eye there. We're also going to make the text below the header just a little bit smaller to distinguish it from the rest of the text. So I'm going to go up to my text tools and make that size 11. And then specifically these cells with the book names, I'm going to make those bold as well because this is actually a header column here. And again, if for whatever reason you need to resize things, you can see this is why we want to insert all the data first and then do the formatting because otherwise you would have to reformat. So this looks pretty good. If I'm not quite sure what it looks like, I can always do Control P and see a print preview. I think that looks pretty good. I like it. I'm going to cancel that. And that was inserting a table, applying some formatting to the table, and using the tools to size the table.